In January, we did my annual 31 Days to a More Effective Compliance program where we looked at one thing you could do each day. Well, we're back with the Compliance Tip of the Day. This is the podcast where we bring you daily insights and practical advice on navigating the ever-evolving landscape of compliance requirements. Whether you're a seasoned compliance professional or just starting your journey, my aim in this podcast is to provide you with a bite-sized, actionable tip to help you stay on top of your compliance game. In the chaotic world of 2025 and beyond, compliance will become even more important, and you staying on top of your game will help your company move forward. Today, I want to take up some issues that are unique around internal controls and in international locations. While a CCO should expect or at least hope that internal controls at locations outside the U.S. are of the same effectiveness as internal controls within U.S. business units and at the U.S. corporate office, this may not always be the case. Indeed, it is often the case that corporate-level internal controls are stronger than those in foreign business units. There could be several reasons for this. First, the CFO may be paying closer attention to the corporate-level internal controls with the idea that corporate-level internal controls are the final filter to detect issues. This follows partly from the focus in most companies on controls over financial reporting, which does not include all controls needed for compliance. A second reason may be that companies were built through acquisition, resulting in many business units, both inside and outside the U.S., having completely different accounting, ERP, and internal control systems than the corporate office. There is often a tendency to leave acquired companies in the state in which they were acquired, rather than trying to integrate their controls and perform them as those current business units. After all, the reason for the acquisition was the profitability of the acquired company, and nobody wants to be accused of negatively impacting profitability. A third situation may exist at locations outside the U.S., with what began simply as a sales office and then expanded its scope of operations to become a business unit with its own accounting and data processing functions. Unfortunately, it is not often the situation where a master plan for internal controls was developed as the location scope grew. Processes are usually added and designated by local personnel, in which practice means the country manager has total control over financial affairs and is not truly accountable to the corporate office. This can be particularly true if the country's business unit profits continue. In such a situation, there may rarely be the focus on effective preventative internal controls for a compliance risk. So what should a CCO do in these various scenarios? First, determine to the extent to which the centralization or decentralization of the processes are different from the corporate office. This translates into a varying degree of analysis of risk regarding locations outside the U.S. depending on the degree of accounting decentralization. A good starting point is to determine the extent to which the financial statements of non-U.S. business units are reviewed and analyzed by your corporate accounting function. A second step is to determine the possible universe of risks and to assess the risk to result in a priority of how attention will be focused. One useful approach advocated is performing a location risk assessment whose purpose is to capture in one place each location outside the U.S. where your company conducts business and to assess the compliance risks posed in that location. Once the risks have been properly categorized, then you can prioritize your approach to dealing with them. So what are today's three key takeaways? Number one, modify. Modifying your internal controls can work to more fully operationalize your compliance program. 2, effectiveness. Check the effectiveness of your internal controls for your international locations and operations. 3, revisit. Revisit your internal controls when a country or region experiences large growth or other disruption. Unfortunately, FCPA violations always happen initially outside the U.S., so having effective internal controls around compliance is critical going forward. One of of the things that I'm happy to do for you, the compliance profession, is if you have a question or a series of questions you would like some compliance tips on, I'm happy to take any requests that you might want, certainly anonymize them, and give you a quick tip. Either one quick tip or maybe a week's worth of quick tips. So if you have any tips you want about your compliance program, you can shoot me an email at tfox@tfoxlaw.com. This podcast was created and produced with the assistance of AI.